So thank you so much, EJ. EJ is with me in my community with a woman Catholic priest. And that's where I met EJ, and he's our host. Then I want to say thank you very much to my brother for talking about the book on Zoom. My brother is also an amazing man, and he's an author. He's a brilliant author, as most of you here know. You've got his book, Become Love, and lots of his other books. I was fortunate to be in lockdown with Larry while Larry was compiling this book, getting everything from everybody. And so it was really nice to see Larry at work. He's the hard worker in our family. So it was nice to see him compiling this book. Without further ado, welcome, Larry, and thank you very much for doing this today.
Thank you, and greetings to you all, and so good to see you and to have you share this very special moment as we focus on an incredible and extraordinary and unique human being, Cyril Axelrod. Bonnie mentioned a little anxiety that because Cyril is so unique, do we somehow treat him as a commodity or as a sales gimmick or anything of that nature? But he would be the first to say, no, he needs to be connected to people by whatever means. Unfortunately, he cannot join us himself because he requires an interpreter guide for a Zoom meeting. And it's a weekend. His guides are only available Mondays to Fridays. So he's sitting home alone in his flat in Camden, in a sheltered scheme where people do keep an eye on him. And he now is busy sculpting. And I saw a little video by Hester Holliday, his guide, of Cyril sculpting a bust. So watch this space. I suspect the next book will be a book of his statues and whatever he is making with clay and other media. But this book, Light in Silent Darkness, it has exceeded all my expectations. It's completely different to any other book I've edited or put together. And the responses from the few people who have seen this book already have been phenomenal. People are seeing the book itself as quite unique, not just Cyril, who is unique, because where else does one find a book of paintings by a person who is blind, who can't see what he's painting, who can't see the canvas in front of him, who hasn't a clue of where the shapes are except by his sense of touch? And he spent many, many months perfecting the art of painting with his fingers and feeling dimensions all over the canvas as he put together colors and shape and form. The trick that he learned was to use string to demarcate areas so that he would see, for example, in the painting of a bowl of flowers, that he has very carefully boundaries for each flower so that he could paint them the different colors that they turned out to be, and that they didn't cross over one another. Let me just find that painting for you, just to give you an idea. Where is it? No. Oh dear, I can't see it. Maybe I must move this to the side. There it is. It's hiding. Can you see that painting? That's the painting of a basket of flowers. But look at the proportions. Look at that incredible shape of the entire painting, and then how he has created the different colors beautifully spaced apart from one another. So it's all by touch. It's all by feeling his way across the canvas. And a lot comes from memory, because there was a time that he could see. And he draws on his memory to give him some idea of what he is trying to convey. Now, for example, his painting of Queen Elizabeth to celebrate the fact that she presented him with the OBE, clearly this is a younger Elizabeth, because obviously since he went blind over 20 years ago, she's aged a bit. So his memory is of Queen Elizabeth at that time when he could still see pictures of her. When personally, of course, he couldn't see her. And protocols forbade his usual means of trying to get to know a person. When he says, "Can I feel your face?" And he would go around and feel a person's face to get an idea what they look like. But of course, that would have been absolutely scandal if he did that in Windsor Castle. Now, let's get on to, screen sharing has stopped. Okay. Let's get on to the book itself. Over the years, I've just entertained a vague thought of putting together a book of Cyril's paintings and myself writing a meditation on each one. And I was thinking here of the famous Sister Wendy Beckett, who was an anchorite, a hermit, a sister, contemplative nun, originally from Grahamstown, actually. And she was very famous for her commentaries on paintings in BBC programs, and has put together magnificent books of paintings with her commentaries on it. But my favorite one being Art and the Sacred. And in it, on one side, Wendy Beckett presents a painting. Most of them are abstract and very modern. And then she writes a reflection meditation on it. And it need not necessarily be a very religious reflection. But what she does is tap into the soul of a painting, resonates with the soul of the viewer. What is going on when we interact with a painting in front of us? The idea of the fixed gaze, looking at a painting and just gazing at it and letting it speak for itself. So this was my great idea, but then it got lost somewhere in the bottom of a pile of great ideas. Until somebody, in fact, Cyril himself reminded me, this year, next month, in fact, is his golden jubilee of ordination. He was ordained in the Cathedral of Johannesburg, and his Orthodox Jewish mother was present at that ordination. And then I thought, yes, let's gather his paintings, but the reflections shouldn't be mine. I should share and invite others to talk about their own responses to various paintings that Cyril had done. And so this book is a collection of, and you know what, I have never counted, I think maybe 25 paintings and certain illustrations and sketches. A collection of these works by Cyril with the written reflections of various people whom I invited to comment on them. And some of these comments have been just unbelievable, that I've realized this person has spent time looking at the painting and allowing the painting to look at them and reality. For example, we have a painting by an 18-year-old matriculant. Now what's happened? Sorry, I've got to open that again.
Larry.
An 18-year-old matriculant who did a reflection on this flamingo. And he sees the flamingo in flight through troubled, stormy background. And his reflection is that he, as a young person becoming a young adult, seeks to be like that flamingo with a sense of direction and a purpose, and not to be afraid of the circumstances and the stormy clouds all around. So I thought, well, that was actually quite magnificent, that a painting speaks to a person and the person speaks to the painting. So we've put together all of these reflections in this book, and some of the paintings are of nature and scenery, and there it's extraordinary. As Sue and Steve Doherty comment on one of the paintings, it's all about perspective. Wondering, where is it? There it is.
Larry,
perspective. How did Cyril get this perspective, looking down from the top of Chapman's Peak, down to the ocean below, the rocks below, beyond that to the western horizon with the sun setting? And look at the colors there. What I find extraordinary of this painting is the green. Now, isn't that amazing, to put that
Larry,
green
sorry for
right there
interrupting.
into the sky?
Larry,
quite amazing.
Can you double click
Some of the paintings are about people, and this is what is now, my screen sharing is paused. I want to have a look at this one, because this is where Cyril speaks about, for example, his maternal grandmother. This is Cyril's maternal grandmother, who was an exile, and she left there escaping the pogroms of the Eastern Bloc, and of course the threat of the Second World War. And she came to South Africa, and Cyril has a memory of her. And Nicola Palmer has written the most beautiful prose poem talking about what she sees in this memory that Cyril has of his maternal grandmother. and how this painting, this portrait conveys the sense of a person. Okay, he's got the eyes skew and, you know, look, he can't see. He can't see what he's done, but it's pretty good. There's that look of anxiety, of loss, of sadness, but there is profound dignity and uprightness in this woman. Look at her beautiful lace work on her dress and the jewelry around her neck and that very strong, tall neck. And so Cyril, in this painting, he conveys the sense of a person, of who she really is and means to him.
Larry,
Yeah.
if you put the pictures in the chat app,
Yes.
Eugene is going to share them that everyone can see them.
Okay, yes. So that's what I'm doing now. It seemed to work better there. Now, of Cyril himself. This is a self-portrait. And it's quite amazing as a self-portrait because I'm uploading it here now. Rabbi priest. Have you got that?
Just give me a sec.
I think
Okay,
it'll
there
take,
it is.
Eugene, a minute, a few seconds to do.
Eugene, are you able to, oh, you've started
Okay.
sharing that with us. Great, thanks, Eugene. Now, this is a self-portrait. And it's, it's two people. It's a Jewish rabbi, a Catholic priest, and the Star of David in the sky. And the rabbi has the tefillin around his shoulders. The priest has the stole around his shoulders, and the different headdress according to the religions. And what's very interesting is that they are limbless, no arms, no legs. And by this, Cyril is conveying the idea that they have project an image of themselves as spiritual beings, spiritual ministers of God, and see himself as both Jewish and Christian, both Jewish and Catholic, both rabbi and priest. And in this painting, he has tried to portray himself as the rabbi priest. And this painting is the one where I didn't ask anyone else to give a reflection on it. He himself wrote the reflection. He has been writing a book of reflections on his struggle with holding together in union his Jewish and Christian identities. And in this book, I found a passage with a narrative of how when he got ordained 50 years ago, there was a very large Jewish community present in the cathedral, and how Cyril went and met with his Jewish family and friends after the ordination event, and how a cousin of his introduced him as the rabbi priest, rabbi father Cyril Axelrod. And he was absolutely delighted that through this he has never lost at all his sense of belonging to both and trying to hold that in harmony and in spirit in his life today, to this very day. Now I'd like to have a look at another painting, because it's also a person one. It's about his bar mitzvah. Oh, no, I don't know if you can see that, or if send it to you again. I should do that. That's what we're doing here. This is Cyril's bar mitzvah. It's been sent. It hasn't yet been uploaded, but it has sent successfully. Now, if Eugene can open it. There you are. Just look at that little boy in the middle. And look at that mouth saying, oh, my word, this is terrifying. And look at all these people in front of me. And his eyes looking to his dad on his left, on the right side of the painting. And the dad just as anxious. And the rabbi on his right saying, chill, you know, you're not the first that's been through this. This is all part of your initiation. They're the two books of the scrolls on either side of him. And he has opened the scrolls, rolled them apart, and he's about to read something there in the center. I do love his little blue yarmulke and how it picks up the blue of his dad's tie, the blue of their eyes, and the blue of the Star of David. Now, on that very point, isn't it incredible that this blind man's use of, he can't see the color. How does he get it right? And what is amazing is that he can even allow an individual color to have different shades. Look at the maroon cloth there and how the colors there are shaded. So this is a magnificent example of Cyril using color. Now I'm going to send you another picture where I think this idea of color is quite extraordinary. Well, the tulips, the colors there are a rainbow, but I wanted to pick up this one, reeds, because this one, reeds, has got the most miraculous sense of color in it. Right. Look at that background sky and the different shades of the back of the clouds or the storm or whatever is brewing there. And then the reeds on the left, the bulrushes, on the right, more like the papyrus reeds. And how he has chosen black for the river or the lake or the little pond, whatever it is. And he speaks of the dark waters of the inner life. But look at the lotus flower, that cheeky little colorful orange lotus flower, as Gail Taverner calls it, that cheeky little flower popping up from these dark waters of the inner world. And how color in this very painting somehow evokes incredible emotion in all of us. The proportions, well, they're there. It's not a distant painting. It's a close-up. It's a zoom, no pun intended, zoom lens of the reeds on the edge of the water and drawing life. And so there is just an example that I wanted to share of his extraordinary use of color. Now, I think I'm going to share just one more painting. And this is what Jill Hoskins calls sunflowers with attitude. In her reflection, Jill Hoskin describes this as sunflowers with attitude. Cheeky little things, so delightful in the sun. Jill has just been elected president of the South African Floral Art Society, and so she comes very well qualified on a painting of flowers. But there, look at that, a blind man who cannot see the color that he's using. But he knew he had to have some bright yellow in the middle, and then the orange around the edge. And the colors run there a little bit into each other, but that's great. There's nothing wrong with that. And then the strong stems and the strong green leaves. Now, let me explain something about how Cyril chooses color. He has all of his paints marked in Braille. So he can tell just by touch of the tube or of the tin what color he is using. Amazingly, he mixes colors as well. And that's just by fluke, by remembering as a child at school learning how to paint and how to mix colors. And he knows that blue and yellow make green. And somehow it's just by a miracle that he gets the blend right, the proportions of colors mixed correctly so that you would produce, say, an orange on the edge there from the yellow and the red producing the orange. I would say that Cyril's works of art from his soul onto the screen of canvas. They truly are a projection because they're coming from a man who cannot see the canvas in front of him. And it's almost as if his spirit, his inner soul, is reaching out to the screen, the canvas in front of him, and projecting itself there. That's why I think this book is quite extraordinary, in that it isn't simply another one of Cyril's autobiographies. He's written one. He's written another one which is in process of being edited and will soon be published, called Still on That Journey. His first book was And the Journey Begins. His second volume is Still on That Journey. And yet this one, I think, conveys, this book of his paintings conveys more of his essence and of his soul. And that's why I think it's very important for me to read Cyril's own little preface. Art flowing from my hands creates images arising from my soul. Blindness can never hinder the paint I put to canvas using my forefinger. This is because for me there's always a close relationship between the beauty of the world and my abiding sense of the gift of my humanity in the midst of my silent darkness. Humanity needs to express itself in beauty, bring light to frame, shaping an object originating in the heart of my heart. Heart is one of Cyril's most popular words. He uses the word heart over and over again, but of course it's very biblical. My sincere hope is that light in silent darkness helps you to contemplate through my art the intimate touch of creation's beauty upon your own soul. I hope my paintings offer a remedy for the endless difficulties of life by bringing you a little peace of mind and some time out to relax and enjoy what you see and read in this book. That I even began painting is only thanks to my beloved cousin Steve Raffaeli and my dear friend Jan Hahn, who explain in their respective forewords to this book how it all happened. They obviously perceived a potential talent despite my blindness, or perhaps because of it. They cannot take all the credit, however. Smile. He always adds the word smile when he's writing. My parents used to encourage me as a child to draw and paint, and my artist cousin Claire Becher's own magnificent paintings inspired me immensely when I could still see. I am profoundly grateful to all who have contributed to this book, not least the authors who took time to contemplate the particular painting that they had chosen, and then to put in words their own inspiring thoughts on what they experienced. But do not allow that to prevent you from having your own insights and perspectives as you go through the images. Let them speak for themselves. Words from Cyril, inviting us to join him on this inner quest, on the spiritual journey, as he gives us a bit of his soul through this book. I'm going to upload, this actually isn't now the existing front cover. I don't know where I have it, but this is one of the earlier drafts of the cover pick. Even the cover pick took me a long time to settle on being happy with it, and trying to show the action and the movement of Cyril in drawing in painting with his fingers. So this is just an early example of what we were looking at. We've changed the background completely. It's a much darker gray. We've got rid of the line, paintings by a deafblind rabbi priest, and changed the font. But there, don't worry about the writing and just look at that person in the right-hand corner of the picture, reaching up to the top and reaching over to the left. And there, in fact, this is a new painting. I just got this picture from him recently, sent by his guide. A new painting that he is still busy working on, so it wasn't ready for publication. Do you know, I asked him, he could make some of his paintings available. He said he's given them away and he can't remember to whom he's given some of the paintings. So I said to him, because you've got to put it in your will. One day this is going to be Vincent van Gogh. Are you going to make the Redemptorists very rich? And then you have to add the word smile. Anyway, I've said my bit, and I would be very happy to field any questions that you may have about this project, about the book, or about Cyril himself.
So, see, there's a question from...
Okay, go for it.
For me?
Speak to us, Roni.
Okay. I want to tell you my story about Cyril, and sitting behind me is my son, James.
Hello, James. Hello, James.
I think James was about 4 when we met Cyril, and he's 45 now. So it wasn't that long after he arrived in became a priest. And James had been diagnosed deaf at the age of 4 and had to go down to St. Vincent's School for the Deaf. And I think Larry must have organized it, but Father Cyril came to visit me together with an American lady who was at the university in America for the deaf. And Cyril was absolutely adamant to Cape Town. And this woman said as well, she said, I would say it's the best school in the world for the deaf, but they don't allow sign language, so I'm not prepared to give them that extra star. Anyway, thanks to Cyril and Larry and Bishop Green, because we're not very good practicing Catholics, they managed to get him into St. Vincent, to St. Dominican Grimley School for the Deaf. And James excelled. He had no language when he went there at the age of 6. But by the end of December of that year, he was speaking properly, and he is difficult still to understand. I'm saying you're difficult to understand, but he's excelled in life. And the person I have to thank is Father Cyril. It would not have happened without him. If he hadn't driven me into insisting that we move to the Cape, it wouldn't have happened. So I owe a huge debt of honor and just debt in my life to Cyril. And I'm very lucky because I also have a painting by Cyril. And it's of the Karoo, and the Karoo means my life. If I could live in the Karoo, I would. I can't. I have to live in England. Well, yes, I do have to live in England. But every day I can look at that painting of the Karoo and go, oh my God, that is my soul. He captured it for me. So
beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. You're very privileged. Is originals.
Yes.
Fantastic. Is there anybody else who would like to make a comment or ask a question?
Eleanor's got her hand up. Eleanor.
Thank you. Thanks, Eugene. And thanks very much, Larry. What a very interesting book. You must have had such fun putting it together yourself.
I did.
But what I was wondering was if you're aware how to live, like, for instance, the picture of the very dignified lady that you were talking about. I was looking at it again and seeing, the downcast eyes and the quite sort of thoughtful set of the mouth. Yes, that one. Mm-hmm. And the poise of the neck. How deliberate was that? How does Cyril ask someone to describe how it's come across, and then does he adjust it, or
no?
How does it
not
work?
at all. He literally paints blind, and he paints in blind faith. He hasn't got the luxury of fixing mistakes because he doesn't see them. He lives completely alone, completely isolated, and he's actually very independent. He would not like anybody to tell him he's made a mistake with this color or that color. He would argue, well, I did that on purpose. So that's his independence is incredibly asserted in his painting. And it's potluck. And there were no paintings that I rejected, actually.
No.
Just let them speak for themselves.
Larry, do you from Elizabeth? How long does it take him to complete these thought-provoking paintings?
Oh yeah, that varies, but he tends to prefer to see something through as quickly as possible, because he will lose track of where he was with a color or with a paint, with a form or a shape. But that's where the string does come in useful. So he can feel the outline of the string glued onto the canvas, and then he can come back to it the next day if he knows he's worked on top left frame. In fact, that was how he originally started painting. Was Jan Hahn had the canvas divided into squares, like a table, and he then would work square by square. But then the problem arose where he wasn't joining things properly, so he got rid of all those bits of string and went more for the outline of a shape with string. And that's all by touch. Look at those flowers that I put up. It's all by touch that he gets them in the right place. And I can tell you something, his hands are very messy at the end of a painting. Now, here is a drawing of his called Touch. And he is a massage therapist registered with the British Health Council. And he trained as a massage therapist at Peterborough University, where he was also learning how to cope with his blindness, because Peterborough of Deafblind UK. So in a sense, that drawing is part of his work of hands, but touch is everything to Cyril. He has no other means of connecting except through touch. That's why the coronavirus pandemic has been a huge cross for him. Even when he went to the pharmacy with his guide, Hester, they were shouted at because he was holding on to her, because people don't know that he's deaf and blind and she's interpreting for him. But still they insisted that they sit 2 seats apart. They couldn't sit next to each other in the pharmacy. And so this is where he gets a bit upset, because he likes his independence. He doesn't like Hester or me when I'm guiding to ask the questions for him. He would say, it's my dignity. So for example, I go up to a train ticket station, and I don't say, we would like, or he would like a ticket to Liverpool. You've got to say, I would like a ticket for 2 people to Liverpool. I'm speaking for him, voice-overing for him. And you know, this is what struck me the most about his meeting Queen Elizabeth in Windsor Castle to receive the OBE, when I went as his guide. She did not look at me. She looked at him. She did not say to me, tell him I think he's great. She said to him, you are great. And I thought, where did she get lessons? Because most people don't do that. You tell him from me that, and I would say, tell him yourself, I'll just interpret while you're talking. He wants that personal contact.
Maybe.
So touch touch is so important. Yeah.
Larry, will you tell them the story about when there were those bombs in London and you and Cyril were in the bus and the bomb went behind you?
Yes, well, no, that was, we were there on the day of the London bombings. We were due to fly to France to go to Taizé. He wanted me to take him to Taizé for a week's retreat. And as it turns out, we had a wonderful time, and he met the founder of Taizé, the Roger. But the tube station, it closed down, and we were told, no, the tubes are not running. Now, we knew nothing of what was going on, so we decided, well, we could get a bus. We had enough time to get to Liverpool Street Station, to get the train to Stansted, I think at which airport was one of those, and fly to Lyon in France. And on the bus, we were driving along, and suddenly we heard the people shouting, walking in the opposite direction. There's pandemonium, you don't want to go there. Then there was an announcement, all buses to evict all passengers and return to your depots. And I said to him, he said, what's going on? And I was writing on his hand, and I was about to say, there's a bomb scare. But there's a bomb, where's a bomb, where's a bomb? I said, wait, let me finish, a bomb scare. And of course, he was very calm. He said, well, aren't I lucky? I won't hear it or see anything if it goes off. It won't affect me. Turns out the bus driver agreed to keep us on, and he drove us back to Camden on his way to his depot. So that was very fortunate. Once we were flying from Cape Town to Johannesburg, one of those planes with the engine at the back, and we were sitting at the back, and it was noisy, and the Bulls had just beaten the Stormers at rugby, and the plane was full of supporters, half drunk, making a hell of a noise, and the engines were making a hell of a noise, and Cyril was talking to me as if nothing was going on, and I was just getting this fierce headache, and eventually I said, Cyril, this is not going to work. I can't talk to you. I can't hear you. I can't understand what you're saying. There's all the planes making a noise. The people are making one hell of a noise. Some of them are singing. And he looked at me and he said, poor you. So I would like to recommend this book. It's not my book. That's what I want to say. It's not my book. I might have played a role in facilitating it. It's a book of people who represent you and others who admire Cyril. And it's a book of his paintings, and to allow his paintings convey something of his inner soul to you. And it's one way that you can have his paintings. We are considering making what you call them prints of some of his paintings, but it's something of his soul, and I think that this book can inspire in so many different ways. So I would recommend that you try and get hold of a copy, because, and this is not just the commercial, although it sounds like it, but I really believe this book is about something bigger than I could have said or could have done in putting it together. It's not about me at all. It's not about sales. It's not about marketing. It's about the fact that this is a unique book about and by a unique individual. And I believe that it will speak to a lot of people who spend time with it.
Lair, there's a couple of questions. maybe you can combine the answer for both of them. Does Cyril use his painting as a spiritual reflection in any way? And then has he managed to combine his Jewish faith with his Christian faith?
Yes, that's a very good question from Eleanor. I really wouldn't know. I mean, what Cyril says in his own preface to the book is that it conveys something of his soul. I think that with Cyril, very important is occupational therapy, anything to do with touch. He must constantly touch because that's how he speaks. And so isn't this now it's painting and sculpture that he's using his hands and his fingers to speak to us. Yeah, he has managed to combine his Jewish faith with his Christian faith. He has never seen them as separate. So it's not as if he was Jewish and left that, became a Christian, and then in later life struggled to fuse them together somehow. He's always said that his Christian faith is in perfect continuity with his Jewish faith. And it's that idea of harmony and continuity that he tries to convey. Patricia. Hi, Patricia.
I knew Cyril in the 1970s when I was teaching for a few years at St. Vincent's School for the Deaf. Cyril was there as chaplain for some of that time. He was deaf, but he was not yet blind. He was the greatest inspiration to the deaf pupils at St. Vincent of anyone else that I knew. And a couple of the deaf pupils have kept up with me and have made something of their lives, something incredible. And their great inspiration has been Father Cyril Axelrod. And everything you've said about him, I remember well how he combined his Jewish faith with his Christian faith. There was no contradiction. One simply flowed into the other. And that was true for some of the Jewish pupils at St. Vincent's. So I remember him as a wonderful inspiration. Oh, and I busy in England now.
Gosh, Trish, thank you for sharing that. It's wonderful that you have that beautiful memory of Cyril. He lives in Rainbow Court in Camden. Rainbow Court is a sheltered scheme for people with needs, and it's part of the social services, and that's the reason he lives in the United Kingdom, because of all the support that he gets there.
Yes, yes.
And he lives on a ground floor flat so that he can grow flowers and herbs and vegetables. He grows his own garden. Again, using the touch, you know.
Yes. Well, thank you. Thank you for this very inspiring talk about Cyril. You've brought back some wonderful memories for me, and I really look forward to having his book and to looking at his interpretation as a blind and deaf person, his interpretation of various aspects of spirituality and life that really come from his heart, as I remember him. Thank you for doing this so beautifully and for all you do for him. I'm really grateful, Larry. Thank you.
Bless you. Thank you so much, Trish. I'm going to ask my sister Bonnie. She is the impresario for this book, and she will make it available. If she will just let you know where you can get it through her.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. guy around here. I've had such fun for 1 year now, selling the Redemptorist books and building this wonderful community that we all are. Most of you have been to the Coffee with God conversations, and you know that came out of lockdown because we couldn't meet when I was talking about all the books, and then one day I couldn't pray. So I went and had a cup of coffee, and then I started talking to God while I had coffee, and that's how that name came about. So if ever you can't pray, just go and make some coffee. It makes a difference. So if you want a copy of the book, it's expensive. It's 300 Rand because it is beautiful. Here's a copy. And the paper and the actual printing is really high quality, and that's why it's expensive. And there's my email address or phone, and I'm using Fastway couriers to get it to everybody now. They've been so good until I've had a problem with them for the first time this week. So if you do order a book, I'm going to suggest that from the day you order, expect it 7 to 10 days later. I actually think the couriers, because of lockdown, are not coping with the amount of stuff they are delivering these days. That's what I think the problem is. If you order, expect it 7 to 10 days later. Okay.
Thank you.
Any more questions from anyone before we close the Zoom?
Well, yeah, Bonnie?
I'm just wondering, am I the only person in the UK that's watching this today?
Looks like it.
Okay.
But anyway, thank you, everybody. It's been absolutely marvelous sharing this project with you. It was a labor of love. It was an inspiration doing it. And I hope it'll be an inspiration reading it. Eugene?
Richard's got his hand up.
Oh, sorry, Richard.
Something.
Oh, good. Richard, go ahead.
I'm Richard. It's no big deal. I just wanted to say thank you very much to you, Father Larry, and to everyone, and to Bonnie for putting it together, because it was a real treat for a Saturday afternoon to join and hear about this book. I met Father Axelrod many, many years ago briefly, so I have a bit of a frame of reference, but thank you very much.
Wonderful. Thank you, Richard.
Yes, thank you, Bert.
And from me to sign off to say this has been great, and let's become advocates of Father Cyril and of the whole, what he calls the gift of disability, that he sees it as a gift from God, because in many ways what it does is it puts us all in touch with our own human frailty and vulnerability. And the book that he has is exactly that. It is light. It is enlightening. It is light. It's not heavy. It's light to hold. It's light to shine, that arises from his own inner silence and of deafness and the darkness of blindness. But there's always light with Cyril. Thank you all, and God bless.